The Hedgeless Horseman here. It's December the 22nd, 2022. And this will be my third video of today, actually. I thought I'd get some videos in before, Christmas holiday pretty much. Today we had news out from Snowline Gold, and it's currently being sold pretty hard. I think it might have it's down 22%, 22.4%, 1 million shares traded, so pretty big volume. Before we go into anything further, I would just like to point some stuff up, some stuff out, how the market works. Had a big ramp here. Declined a bit, and then as I guess people were, by definition expecting that, hey, soon the new news release with assays will be out. So you saw what's that, like from the low to 42 to a new all-time high close at almost $4. That's obviously a big ramp. I think there was some maybe news in between actually, but still it's like a 30% ramp. And again, that's on no news. So you see this, so basically you get paid for the assays before they come out, if you know what I mean. You can see 80 people in the room, so there's obviously, this has been the talk of the town for quite some time, and you can just imagine in a poor sentiment environment like this how many want to get rich tomorrow. So people who had missed the run in Snowline, for example, they're like, yeah, I'm not gonna miss the next time it does something like this. So people buy in and expect to get rich from the assays. The problem is obviously that that's probably this move here, people just buying, expecting to get rich from the assays. And again, that means there's, let's say, pent up selling pressure, because there's a bunch of people in that bought this rally here that does not care about the long term, who want to chase the next catalyst, next assay results. And today, the news today, some of the headline holes here: 338 meters starting from 91 meters. Obviously that's an inclined hole, so it's actually not starting at 91 meters down, but maybe, who knows, 45 meters, 50 meters down. 338 meters of 1.32, including 207 meters 1.76, starting from, which might be, I don't know, 80 meters depth, including 20 meters 419, and then we have a very broad 442 intercept of 0.65, including a higher grade one of 170 at 1.18. Obviously, if you take this out from this becomes lower, maybe, I don't know, 0.45 grams perhaps. Still, this is fairly shallow at 1.18. Then we have 313 meters of 0.86 starting at surface. And you have this, this was the whole, okay, this is, wait, is this 33? Okay, this is this whole, I guess, right? Yeah, I think so. And that's this one here, and this is, this one here is 338 at 0.76. So we get a big sell-off today because there's a bunch of holes that didn't hit much in terms of veining, and they actually didn't assay that much either. It's this 33 here. Top part of it, 121.9 meters of 1.33 within 313 meters. But you can see, you can see the vein density in visible gold. So interestingly, again, in this case, vein density was quite low, but quite a bit of visible gold. Still, that didn't translate that much to grade. So here it's like the vein density again is appears to be the main determinant, which has been the case before. And you also have here you have broad low grade halo stuff, 80 meters of 0.17, 27 meters of 0.15, 448 at 0.27. This is more than double the Fort Knox cutoff grade, so I'm assuming this would actually be mined in if this becomes a mine, since they pretty much mined that stuff at Fort Knox. And of course, I mean, if you have that and have all the sunk costs in place, etc., yeah, you're probably gonna end up mining that. So again, I wouldn't say it's exactly like SK mining, but I would say okay, interesting. We have a big flush after a big ramp, so we're back to like these levels here. Were the results below my expectations? Yeah, I would say so. Again, below expectations. I thought hole 15 would come in at over a gram actually, and not only this part, but like 500 meters at 1 point something something. So that's lower than I thought. Important question is obviously it's like okay, we can see what the market thinks or the market's reaction. Question is the market right? Has there is or is this opportunity? Is it fairly priced now or not? That is a question I can't for sure answer. But when I remember like okay, we know first of all this is early days still. But I remember a video where Quinton talked about the possibility of the high grade core extending that way, and kind of I mean interestingly that is what is if you look at the soil samples, this is from early January of this year. These were the first holes and they ran pretty good, like 1 gram to 1.37 gram, and these were mostly in the Hornfells, which is not even the main intrusion here. You can see these are outside the actual main intrusions, and still they had some pretty good intervals. I mean, some parts were in the intrusion, uh, but there was clearly mineralization outside the intrusion. And here they get cut off quite quickly. Here you see gray basically mineralization, and here it goes to gray. Here it also goes to gray, but still, this is material mineralization outside. And if you look at, uh, let's say the trend here, here we have these 2021 holes. So they are the holes here. And you can see this southeast northwest trend of quite high soil samples. So I would argue that that kind of follows the high grade corridor. I expect hole 29 here to be pretty good, by the way. That has not yet been released. It's underneath this red here and this pink here, or between this pink and red here. And yes, it kind of follows the uh, soil assay results. I mean, not in a surgical way, but you can obviously see a trend here, and this obviously stretches out quite a bit past the most western parts of the drilling. So I mean, it makes sense that you have this kind of high grade corridor that might go something like this. And I remember Quinton talking about this, and I found it was the second last video he did on Snowline, and just listen to this part.
One of the things I've been thinking about, and I'm going to show people, this is just my idea, but we have to account for that pajingus of gold out here. Okay, this area here with all the gold in the hornfells and these soil samples. Why is that out there? Like, what would be driving that? Well, what if it turns out that our intrusion, our mothership, the one that's actually creating this high grade core, is actually plunging in that direction. Okay, what I mean is if we look down like this, just about like that, you can see that all of this pink starts to form a nice tight cluster. And I expect some of the holes that are going to be in here will also have pink. So basically, we have a nice tight cluster, but it might be actually plunging. In other words, it's kind of oriented so that it's diving in the ground underneath this area with the hornfels. That would be an interesting outcome. Okay, that might mean that this space down here is where the rest of this higher grade mineralization is actually going. Okay, it's a little bit hard to see in perspective view here, but basically, there's kind of a pattern developing here, maybe about like that, where the higher grade is actually dipping underneath all of this. It would be underneath these holes, so it kind of dip behind them, but it might be dipping underneath. Okay, that could be very interesting. When you're exploring, it takes a little while to fully understand your system, and you have to interpret data. This is just me wing dinging it. I'm not saying I know exactly what's going on. The guys at site obviously know way more than I do, but it's just something I noticed that could be a potential explanation for this pattern. All right, now.
And he has some other comments about low grade halos, and he's like pointing out that here all of a sudden not huge grades, but you can see these two holes that the grades actually pick up at depth. Who knows if they're getting closer to some other zone or portion which is more mineralized again, because they're kind of barren on top, but again more gold at depth. We don't know. So like always with exploration, there's a bunch of stuff we can't know for sure, but the guys on the ground probably has a much better idea. What we do know is that they should have a bunch of cash left. We have, I think, 17 holes yet to come from the valley target, which includes hole 29 here, which I think is going to be a headline hole basically. As for the rest, absolutely no idea really. I don't remember exactly the vein density. Here you can see it a bit better, I guess. This is hole. Is this 30? No, was this reported now? Okay, 30 has not been announced either. So, that might obviously be something. Here you have this hole 27 not announced, pretty good vein density, sort of, along the same corridor. And visible gold hits, obviously. Here you have something as well. I don't think this, well, okay, this was the release now, I think. 31, is that, or 12? Okay, 31. Yeah, okay, that was the point 27. So of the low grade hits, that was actually the best. But point being, I guess, that yes, we have a sell-off today, and I do think especially hole 15 was a bit below my expectations. The question is, what is all this worth? What is all this worth, including the potential that the high-grade core might continue to the northwest, as is shown in the soil samples here, and this is a good, I don't know, 300 meters extra. And obviously there's stuff kicking around up there perhaps, and I mean, who knows, might be a zone here or at depth below, something starts kick off here. I mean, obviously that would be very deep, so I don't know how economic that would be. Probably need to be quite high grade. But the point is that I still consider this to be very early days. This is the first season that they've actually had some solid drill meters in, and we don't even have all the facts out from this drilling. And you can see them prodding around, etc. So again, let's say if there's a possibility that there's 300 meters or more mineralization here, then of course all the holes from Gracie are still left to be reported. We obviously have Jupiter that they have not followed up anything on, even though they have 100 gram meter intercepts at Jupiter. Then of course we have again the Gracie target, which I expect to see much more drilling next season. Obviously this is we don't know what it's explaining this massive goylin soil anomaly, but obviously it kind of, in terms of length and strike, it obviously blows valley away. But we have yet to find the intrusion there. We just know there's 5.1 kilometers of golden smoke here, and I think that needs proper follow-up before you cast that aside, let's say, because something created that, even though we don't know if it's economic, but this is still something, in the queue, let's say. Jupiter, obviously something in the queue with 100 gram meters intercept in early stage drilling, wildcatting almost. And then we have all their other projects. They obviously picked up Golden Ola from Strike Point with even more reduced intrusion related gold system. Here we have Macmillan Pass, Fire Red Metals, where Lundin's just put in, I think, 35 million into. Maybe they didn't put in the whole thing, but that's kind of speaks well for the entire district here, I would say. So again, it's like question we must ask ourselves is 372 million Canadian minus cash. Is that cheap or expensive relative to what we know so far about Valley and the potential in, where is it? The whole Rogue project, including Gracie and Jupiter and all their other targets. Nobody can say for sure, but to me, I don't think this, again, I think Mr. Market is kind of overreacting here. That's just my opinion. I don't know for sure. I would have preferred that we would have more, let's say, above 0.5 grams per ton in the Halo. But the Halo seems to be, very low grade. I mean, yes, you might be able to mine that, but obviously that's not a bunch of cash flow from 0.7 or 0.27 grams per ton, not at this gold price. But could this be, several millions of ounces at 1 to 2 grams per ton? Yeah, I think so. Question is, again, with the remoteness, does Valley alone reach the critical mass for a development decision? That, of course, again, also depends on the infrastructure. If Macmillan Pass, etc., gets better infrastructure, maybe that will help things out. And the question is, of course, let's fast forward 12 months. One field season, what will have happened here? I would expect that, they might drill out here. They're obviously going to do some infill drilling on high-grade stuff, and they haven't tested this. Maybe that's somewhere along here. They have just one hole out here. We have maybe there's if this plunges in some way, maybe there's zones that have yet to been hit, and or that this in fact turns out to be dipping this way, so it goes under the felsic rocks here, or hornfells. I don't know, but for everything Snowline has, I wouldn't, including Valley, I wouldn't say, I'm more likely to buy than sell at this level. I think, again, I don't think that these assays or what they say about the case overall is as bad as Mr. Market says it is today, or the reaction is today. I, of course, don't know that for sure, but I think this could still turn into, or is a big discovery. Hopefully they will prove up a few 100 meters more, and this will at least be, at the end of the day, a 10 million ounces of very high grades for a reduced intrusion related gold system. And hopefully they will keep drilling Jupiter, and sooner or later find what explains this whole Gracie trend here. That remains to be seen. So if this works out well, obviously there's room to run from 372 million Canadian. If it does not work out, we'll take a loss. That's just how exploration is. I'm waiting a bit more to hear from the company, and I at least would want to give Valley another drill season, and Gracie, and actually Jupiter. I guess the bottom line is that it's impossible to kill this case a case with this much land and cashed up with uh, 5 holes that were released today. That's my opinion. Do I know that it's gonna for sure turn into a multi-bagger from here? No, I don't. And I'm looking to or waiting to hear more from Quinton and Scott, etc. Because I always want to hear the context and people smarter than me that knows more about geology than me discuss uh, what this news release actually means and what they think about the whole uh, system. Because I have a hard time trusting Mr. Market's initial reaction in anything really. Uh, yeah, so hopefully that sheds some light. Again, I guess to wrap up, I'm not piling in right now. I have some stink bids in. Uh, but yeah, I would wanted to have seen somewhat better grades overall. But what it means for the is this slam dunk pile in everything you can just because the price just got lower and cheaper. No, I don't think so. I'm waiting for that a bit. But I have to think more about this. But I thought I may be helpful to give some kind of again context because that's typically like you saw it in SK mining. Everybody's focused on the just the assays. If they themselves in a vacuum were below or above expectations, sprinkle in a bunch of pent up selling demand from people who wanted to get rich off the assays. So is this a bargain for a long-term investor in Snowline? Perhaps, who knows? Might be the case, but I'm not betting the farm until I have some bit more color from people that are smarter than me. Consider me biased. I own shares of Snowline Gold, uh, so do your own due diligence. And yeah, good luck to all. Bye.